I represent Chadondo East. And I would have preferred to highlight a few issues of concern, equal as a Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, but I want to start as a committee member purely. Chair, aware that we are looking at the budget framework paper, and you rightly indicated in your preamble by citing Article 164 that Parliament shall monitor all expenditure of public funds. I want to draw the attention of members to Section 9, subsection 4 of the Public Finance Management Act, which specifically and in instructive terms provides that the budget framework paper shall comply and shall be in the form as provided for in the third schedule of the Act. Looking at the third schedule of the Act, particularly Section 5 or Paragraph 5 of Schedule 3 of the Public Finance Management Act, it provides in very clear terms, A, that the budget framework paper shall contain a statement of resource to be approved by Parliament and used by the Ministry in preparation of the budget for the next financial year, which shall indicate the ceiling of expenditure of government in the financial year. And I also want to quote the number C or paragraph C, the ceiling on total budget funding from petroleum revenue holding account in the financial year. Chair, aware that we are processing the framework paper in compliance with the law, I've picked this particular document led by the minister, the budget framework paper, which is drafted in different language from actually the language of the summary statement he provided. When you look at page 18, which is the equivalent of page 6 on resource envelope of the would be talking notes. The framework paper provides the language of the talking notes is of a ceiling of 52.7 trillion as the total funding, budget funding, which of course the chair has since clarified that equally when you compute the allocations, they are totaling to above 54 trillion. But my area of concern is the statement of the minister in the budget framework paper, which states, and I want to read, that the preliminary resource envelope for financial year 2024-25 is projected at 52. The word preliminary. And equally in his talking notes, he's talking about that at this time, we have not yet concluded on A, B, C, and D. Now, my concern is on the law versus the document. The law provides that you must have a clear ceiling. A clear ceiling that the statement of resource must provide a ceiling. But the budget framework paper isn't talking about a ceiling. And we are dealing with a situation where we see multiple supplementaries flocking in time and again. And it has been raised by members. Chair, my first concern, which I want the ministry to clarify, what is the ceiling as provided for within the law? Because the allocation is totaling to about 52 trillion. Your statement is talking about 52 trillion. The law provides that there must be a specific and specified ceiling. I was trained by Honorable Kagwa, Mr. Kagwa Moses, but I'm now left to the law. That the law provides for a ceiling which must be disclosed by the budget framework paper, not discussing in assumption. That's my area of concern, Chair, which I think the ministry must clarify. We cannot discuss a budget framework paper which has no ceiling. And number two, Chair, I've perused through this document. I just need guidance, I think. The ministry needs to guide us on the ceiling on the total budget funding for petroleum revenue. We are looking about, when I looked at the allocation, they're talking about expenditures in terms of petroleum investment. But what about, do we get any funding from petroleum? What is there to indicate as provided for? Because the law provides that you must indicate it. It's not an assumption. This is the law. And you cannot come up with a framework paper where you selectively choose what you indicate and you leave out what must be there. And the law was instructive that it must comply, it shall and must comply with the Schedule 3. Lastly, Chair, yes, yes, of course, Honorable Kenya is saying there are so many non-compliance issues. And lastly, Chair, is the question of the NDP 3. Because the law, when you look at Section 9, Section 9, subsection 3, it is instructive that the budget framework paper shall comply with the National Development Plan. Now, are we going as a committee to receive and continue to receive non-compliant budget framework paper? Because when the law is very clear, let's send it back. Let's send it back because the law is very clear and very instructive. Let's be a committee that buys this time. Because when the law is instructive that it must comply, then why not comply? You cannot abate impunity, we cannot abate non-compliance. Chair, I beg to move and submit in accordance with the law, but as well there's another fear within this document in terms of debt, in terms of public borrowing. I don't know whether the minister can clarify. He's talking about the public debt projected to increase. I think we also need to understand what the minister is meaning, because they're talking about the public debt is projected to increase on page 20 of this substantive document as laid on table. So, Chair, my concerns were basically tailored within the law that where we find non-compliance, are we proceeding right to continue discussing non-compliant documents, whereas the law is instructive that the budget framework paper must be compliant. I beg to submit, Chair.